Hi, welcome to The Complete Advisor. We are here today to talk about a very interesting new product, really a new concept into our space, an old concept into a new space. So there's a whole bunch of old dogs. We're going to learn some new tricks here today. I'm excited. I'm joined by the best and brightest of Independent Life. We've got the chairman and founder of Independent. I didn't know you were the founder, my goodness. Of Independent Life, of the Independent Insurance Group. Let me correct myself. Micheal Upchurch. Michael, great to have you here today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Dennis.
And then riding shotgun is Chris Bua. Did I say the last name correct?
Yes.
Got it right. Got it right. There's 3 letters, but that could be a tongue twister there. And Chris, you've been with the company for a while, but what is your position at the company?
Sure. So I'm Senior Vice President of Sales, so I oversee sales, marketing, and even some operations for Independent Life.
Nice. Jack of all trades.
Yes, a little bit, yes.
Very good. All right, well, Michael, let's just jump right over you. And for those people that don't know Independent Life, tell us a little bit about the history of your company.
Sure. Independent Life is the first life insurance company that was exclusively focused on the structured settlement space. You know, the structured settlement space is a unique space within the insurance industry. Mm-hmm. The structured settlements are simply based on an annuity product. And when there's a personal injury case that is oftentimes catastrophic, there's an injury victim that doesn't necessarily need the money all up front in one single lump sum. They need to pay for whether it's medical care, replace earnings, something along those lines. Mm-hmm. Structured settlement is often used to pay out those future periodic payments. So the industry itself was dominated by the large life insurance carriers, and they really ignored the space at times. Mm-hmm. There was really a lack of innovation. And circa 2015, 2016, we put together a group of professionals that said, "Look, this can be done better. Let's bring some great minds together." And we built a team, went out, raised some capital, and then in 2018 we launched the company. And the reception in the marketplace has been absolutely unbelievable. We've been just so thankful for the support that we've received.
How did you get into? I'm just glanced over at your bio that I've got on my laptop here, and with your background in tech. How did you come into the space? Did you just see an opportunity that needed enhancement, or?
Well, back in 2001, 2002, my father, who was a large mediator, kind of recognized the need in the industry for kind of a forward thinker to focus really on the needs of the injury victim. And I got into the industry at that point. Learned the industry, started getting involved. With some of the best cases, working with just wonderful attorneys, wonderful plaintiffs, the individual insurance carriers themselves, and learned a tremendous amount about the industry, and was able to acquire an agency, Delta Settlements, in 2008, and then from there, the entrepreneur bug, I guess was unleashed and did things like create a neurological rehabilitation facility, and then ultimately led to the formation of Independent Life Insurance Company.
That's fascinating. It's like we're on an episode of Shark Tank, and they're like, "I saw a need, I saw this issue, and no one was answering it," and there you go.
Yeah, Dennis, the reality is, injury victims are often overlooked. The disability community is overlooked, and I've always taken the perspective of what could I do, or what could the team do, what could a new organization do to help that family, help that individual. And whether it's Independent Life Insurance Company, whether it was New Life, it's always focused on improving the lives of that individual. And I've been very fortunate that we've been able to work with some great leaders. I mean, the reality is Chris was my personal case manager for about a decade, and we were involved in some incredible cases, working with some incredible people. And he was there at the very beginning when we kind of launched the company.
Nice. So you bringing Chris into the conversation here. You've got your law degree from like Central Florida?
Florida Coastal.
Florida Coastal. There, I just made a whole university angry with me. But so you bring that degree. How did you decide to take that education path and end up at an insurance company?
Great. So I have a great story about that. So I graduated law school right kind of during the recession, 07, 08. And my undergrad was in business. So I was kind of expanding my horizons because of the economic climate, and I started looking into opportunities outside of just going to a law firm. And one I stumbled across was actually Micheal posted an internship to get some extra help in the office. He had just acquired the company and was moving the operations from California to Florida. And so he got about 30 resumes, and one of the resumes was mine. And going back to undergrad, I actually got a tip from a college professor that said, all these resumes that you're going to be competing against, they all look the same, so you've got to have something that stands out. And one thing you can do is on the bottom of the resume, put your personal interest. So I had average grades, average background. I needed something to stand out. So I did put those personal interests on the bottom of my resume, which were Gator football, country music, and golf. So Micheal, amongst the 30 resumes, came across mine, loves all three of those things, and was like, I'm at least going to talk to him. So he brought me in, we hit it off. He brought some other people in, didn't hit it off so much. Ended up getting the job, never looked back, and I've been in structured settlements, I guess, since 2008 now.
You forgot the best part of that story. You also said you liked poker in the interview itself.
In the interview, yeah.
And I thought to myself, if I can't get along with this guy, who can't I get along with?
So which one of the four was the one that really that's the one that tips him over?
Poker.
Poker, very nice, very nice. And that's probably where his first couple intern paychecks went back right into your pocket.
Yeah,
I don't know about that. He's always taking my money at the tables.
Well, so let's go to the state of the industry, because I'm an outsider looking into this space, into the settlement space, and from what I know, the little bit that I know, is that in this community, the people that provide this type of product. Traditionally, it's been a very narrow niche marketplace, and like we were talking a little bit off air, the fact that there's going to be a whole bunch of people listening to this podcast that are, they're familiar with REITs and 1031s, and they're doing MLPs and funds and the whole nine and annuities, and this is something that will be a brand new area of opportunity that they've never heard of. And I also if I understand this correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong. But in this space, it's typically been would it almost be like an agency system? Do I have that right, or am I totally off here?
You're spot on. There are a bunch of agencies that represent the product. They've got individual agents that work through the agencies, but the agencies themselves control the marketplace.
There we go. And so now we're at an exciting new juncture in this space, is that there is access now. You've brought out a product that I'd love for you to tell everybody about, but you brought out a product that is available to those agencies, but also just kick the door open to the independent.
Exactly. Chris, why don't you take the discussion to down the iStructure route?
So we have Independent Life created a product over the last couple of years now, rolled it out early 2022. It's called the iStructure Annuity. It can be used for several purposes. Your listeners may want to know that it can be used for structured installment sales. So when you're selling a business, selling a piece of property that has appreciated, you can use this product to defer those long-term capital gains over whatever period of time that you would like to reduce, possibly even eliminate those capital gains over time. This is a seasoned strategy. It's actually been done in the early 2000s. It started with Allstate Life, and then Prudential and MetLife also did a version of this, but they were doing it with a product that had a fixed rate of return. We came at it from a different angle. We wanted to use the power of indexing to provide higher payments, higher rate of return over time, and make it a more attractive solution for someone that's selling their property or their business.
Let me say it back to you, just so that I'm on the same page here. So before, what was available in this space was a vehicle that had probably a set low interest rate. And I also, if I'm not mistaken, the comp for producers was not very attractive either.
Correct.
But the opportunity, the upside opportunity then, some growth opportunity for the person whose money it was very, very limited. You all come along and decide to add the power of indexing, and we all know what indexing can bring to the table, that upside opportunity. And my gosh, with inflation, I was talking with another guest, and the fact that for years and years and years in the financial space, we talk about inflation. There's always that slide, or somewhere along the lines when you're talking to somebody about retirement, inflation, blah, blah. This is the first time that I can remember in my lifespan where it's like, holy smokes, I can actually see inflation right in my face. So having the indexing in this space, because these settlements stretch out, they have a fairly long, decades.
Decades.
Okay.
It's the longest annuity written. I mean, because oftentimes we're dealing with, catastrophic accidents, inclusive of mothers and fathers, passing away in automobile accidents. And the beneficiaries of those settlements are these kids. Sometimes they're super duper young, and we've got to take those funds and invest it for their future. And oftentimes life annuities are written, so we've got 60, 70-year duration on some of the policies that we write.
Oh my gosh.
So and when it involves a personal injury settlement, those payments are tax-free. So the initial premium that's going into it, and then any growth over the life of the contract, is all returned to the injury victim tax-free, which is a huge benefit.
So there's really three lines here of prospect, or who this product, who the iStructure product would be for, and that would be for, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong here, the plaintiff, the person receiving the settlement. There's the opportunity. Isn't there an opportunity for the attorney to use this same product with their fees?
Yes.
And then lastly, because I feel like when we talk about the product, or when I've heard conversations, a lot of times the conversation goes towards settlements, towards the lawsuit or whatever was settled. But then there's that whole other frontier of the structured sale. Walk us through those three different groups, like the characteristics or.
Sure. So as Michael mentioned, we launched in 2018, and from the beginning, we focused primarily on personal injury settlements. So we would work directly with settlement consultants who would work with the plaintiff attorney, the plaintiff, and then the defense. So when they came together on a settlement of a claim, there's a portion of that settlement that goes to attorney fees, there's a portion that goes to costs, and then whatever's left over is the recovery for the plaintiff. And since 2018, we've written structured settlement annuities for attorney fees, for that plaintiff recovery, and it's all been with a fixed rate of product. This new product, iStructure, is eligible to be used in those situations. It's also, as you mentioned, structured sales, which is what I touched on earlier. That's an area that we also, beginning in around 2019, started promoting our fixed rate product too. And you would get a lot of initial interest. And then when they would get into the quotes and they would see a return that was 2.5%, 3%, the discussion would get shut down. It's just not what that seller who's usually sophisticated, it's not what they want to lock their money up, even with the tax savings of deferring it over time. But when you compare the tax savings and tax deferral with a projected really good rate of return, then it pops off the screen, and we're seeing a lot of success, a lot of people tripping over themselves to get to this product when they go to the closing table.
Yeah, the reality is we look to innovate within the structured settlement space, and we did that by creating the first uncapped indexed structured settlement annuity. And as soon as we did that, we recognized that there was substantial demand in the structured sales arena, whether that was the sale of a business, a sale of real estate. And we really got fortunate in the sense that inflation took off, circa 2022. We're living in the middle of it right now, and that's just driving incredible demand for our product, not just within the traditional channel, which is the structured settlement channel, but now it's this, untapped territory, which are structured sales. And, we're seeing the phones ring off the hook, people trying to learn more about the product, learn more about the process. And the reality is the documentation of a structured sale is almost identical to a structured settlement. So we worked with the attorneys to modify the contracts to document that transaction, to document the tax deferral component. And we're just incredibly thankful for the position that we're in and the relationship that we have with Creative One to take that vision, to take that concept and broadcast it to the producers that are out there that have the relationships with the families, the individuals that are selling their business properties, whatever the case may be.
Do you see, so as this product, I got a double question here. We'll do them one at a time. But as Independent Life rolled this product out, so new product with existing producers that you're working with, how was their reception? Was there a long learning curve? Did they take to it like a duck to water? What kind of a response did you get?
Yeah, I would say it's been a wide range of of responses. We've seen people that immediately got it and was like, this is a game changer, and began integrating it immediately into their practice, and those were our early adopters. And then we've seen people that were a little skeptical early on that touched it a few more times and were able to get to a point where, wow, this is great. We've seen responses on the defense side, actually, where a major firm, a major company in this country, when they first heard about our product, iStructure, they're like, this is the product we've been waiting 15 years for from a claims resolution standpoint. Because if you're putting across settlement offers to plaintiffs and your tool is a structured settlement that's returning 2 or 3%, it's hard to make that look attractive. But when you can put projected results between 6 and 9% on the table, and you have companies like Franklin Templeton, Bank of America, Independent Life, there's a tremendous amount of credibility that goes along with that. So it's really changed how they approach settling claims.
I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
That is very interesting, because both sides want to settle.
Correct.
At some point, wherever that number lies. But that's really interesting.
If you can have that number, the settlement offer compound at, again, 5 to 7% compared to 3 to 4%, the difference over, again, 20, 30, 40, in some cases 50, 60 years is astronomical, and it really sells itself. So when people would really dig into the product and understand how the index worked, how the crediting methodology worked, again, that's when we started to get a lot of buy-in to the product.
So what about, so you've had those existing relationships where you're going from a situation of, hey, you've always used Independent Life for X. Now let me talk to you about the iStructure. But now you've expanded, and you're expanding, and this is where it's exciting, especially for me, because we had a guest on the podcast recently that was using iStructure for a very large family farm somewhere, can't say where, but that they were going to be looking at this product, this solution to help this family in this real estate transaction. But how has it been, and maybe Kristen and Michael, but how has this been taking this concept, which is like old hat to this whole segment that you're used to working with, to now going out to a group of people that very smart, very successful, totally virgin territory here. So what's that like, Chris?
Again, excitement. They're able to bring a solution to a situation that they didn't have a solution for before. So if we met with an advisor who, actually we talked to one earlier today, we talked to somebody that had a family farm that was transacted 3 or 4 months before this product came out. And when she learned of the product, she's like, where the heck was this 3 or 4 months ago that my family was selling our farm? We didn't want to get back into real estate. We didn't want to do a 1031. Like, we almost just did it because there was nothing else to do. Had this solution been available, it would have been a no-brainer, and that's what the family would have done. So I think that when you asked the question, the first thing I thought of was we have a solution for a problem where a solution didn't really exist before.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with a situation right now where it's multi-generational. It's 26 beneficiaries. Go down to all the grandkids and great grandkids, and they're selling the business. And the reality is that this product, on an individual beneficiary standpoint, can be customized for the unique needs of those beneficiaries. So in that situation, obviously, we've had to get a ton of different accountants and lawyers involved. As well as parents and everyone else, to customize the solution for each one of those folks.
That's fantastic. Which that's a good point you make, and that's always why it is important. Unless you are a CPA and an attorney, you should be working with a CPA and attorney, because this is very new. This is a very nuanced area to be operating in.
Absolutely, it's essential. And candidly, when you bring those experts to the table, or work with your client and the the CPA, the lawyers that they're working with on the transaction, tremendous credibility is created. And again, the ability to customize this product for each individual person is critical. Because you truly can kind of take everyone's unique interest into consideration when you design the solution that's ultimately implemented.
That's fantastic. So what do you see as you look ahead here, what do you see as challenges and opportunities for Independent Life?
Well, the challenges are the education that it's that the iStructure is available for not just your traditional personal injury case, but also this developing field of structured sales. That's both the challenge and the opportunity.
Chris, what do you think?
Yes, I think it's a combination of having a new product that really there's nothing else like it, particularly in the structured settlement world. I know on the retail side, we're taking concepts that have been proven and been effective there and applying it to periodic payments. So it's a little nuance there. And then our company, I mean, we started in 2018. We're pretty well known by this point in the structured settlement arena, but now we're going outside of that world to market this opportunity. And there's advisors that just have never heard of independent life. So it's educating them not just on the product, but the company.
So I see, when I look at the product and everything that I know about it in our conversation so far, I'm seeing in our world, in the independent distribution world, I'm seeing those RIA firms, I'm seeing broker-dealers, because they're having, but then also our non-registered producers have that same opportunity, but they don't quite have the same compliance and regulatory oversight that our registered folks have. How have broker-dealers responded to the product? Do they just look at it like a MLP or another offering? Or
yeah, the few that have looked at it and it's went through compliance, it's come back with a thumbs up. So
nice.
I mean, it's an index-linked structured settlement annuity. You just need a life and health license.
Did you just say ILSA?
ILSA, yes.
I like it. We're coining that phrase. I was going to make a compliance joke of, when you said thumbs up, when it comes back from compliance, thumbs off, because, take them off. Sandy, I'm sorry, that's our compliance department. But that is a really exciting area, is that registered space and their approach, whether they're an IAR or whether they're a registered rep, their approach to have one more item in their arsenal to help solve a client's needs. But then it's also a matter of staying top of mind so that they don't forget that I've got this tool in my tool case. How do you promote the product? Trade magazines, do they even exist anymore? You're out with different trade associations.
Absolutely. So myself and other team members were constantly at conferences. So whether that's trial lawyer conferences, CPA conferences, advisor conferences, we're out introducing the concept. And what we have found most effective are those one-on-one conversations. So if they come up to the booth, we can walk through a sample quote at the table and do that. We've also had great success with dinners. We do a nice fancy steakhouse, and we get 5 to 10 minutes kind of in the middle to talk about who we are, why we're there, the problem that we solve. And almost every one of those, we're getting business almost immediately right afterwards. So
That's nice.
It's all about personal relationships. It's all about getting in front of them and educating them. Yeah. And if we can do both of those, we're going to have a lot of success.
I'd say professional networking. I mean, just getting out with the accountants, getting out there with the attorneys. That's a very, very small community. Word of mouth is critical for our business.
Now, Michael, do you have a team set aside for, so here's what I'm imagining. I'm imagining that somebody who's not in that trial space hears this, has the opportunity, but they're almost like a dog that catches the car. Like now they got the car by the bumper. Now what do I do with it? Do you have that support to help them through?
Dennis, absolutely. Whether it's a structured sale or if an advisor comes across a personal injury case where they've got a friend that's a lawyer or potentially a plaintiff and they need help, guidance, we've got the team to help them through the entire process. And we've got experts on staff that can help with the case management, the documentation, again, regardless if it's a structured sale or a structured settlement. So we've got the professionals that have been in the industry literally for decades that can walk the advisor through. And when we've done that in the past with people who are new to the industry, we make them look like pros.
Nice. And
they inevitably come back and say, look, I've got other friends, other opportunities that I want to introduce this to. So it's really a win-win from that perspective.
I like it. That's fascinating. It's going to be very fascinating to watch as this space grows and as your exposure grows. What do you see when you look from the executive office? What do you see of those three spaces, the settlement, the attorney fees, and then the sale? What's the biggest market, out of curiosity?
Hands down, the structured sale arena. I mean, the structured settlement space has traditionally been about a $6 billion a year industry. I think that the structured sale marketplace could absolutely dwarf that, especially when you take into consideration, real estate, sales of businesses. There's this massive transformation that we all know is coming with the retirement, the baby boomer generation retiring, selling their businesses. There's massive opportunities there.
Yeah, we're at near market highs with these real estate prices, and a lot of people want to lock in those gains, and they just don't want to pay the tax now. So we think these next 3 years are going to be just huge for the structured installment sale market.
Yeah, and the tax planning that can go into this and the sophistication behind customizing a plan is mission critical. I mean, deferring taxes and then taking advantage of different deductions over multiple years, truly, can position the advisor to be a remarkable value add to the discussion.
Nice. That is a perfect, right there, that is a perfect spot for us to stop, and that is a heck of a perfect statement. So I'm excited to see and watch, and we'll have you both back on the podcast here 6 months to a year and check back in. But I know that any time that we've had this conversation, when I've brought people through the office and we've stopped and talked to our team that talks independent life, they've ton of questions, ton of excitement, and it is a bit of an eye opener. So, gentlemen, thanks for being on the podcast, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for hosting, Dennis.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dennis.
This podcast is for financial professional use only and not for use with the general public. The information provided is the exclusive property of Creative One and is protected by copyright and other intellectual property laws of the United States. This material has been prepared for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide, and should not be relied upon for, accounting, legal, tax or investment advice. Creative One is not responsible for the results of programs discussed on this podcast or any liability stemming from the use of it. Although we may promote or recommend the services offered by this company, agents are ultimately responsible for the use of any materials or services and agree to comply with the compliance requirements of their broker-dealer and registered investment advisor, if applicable, and the insurance carriers they represent. Copyright 2022, Creative One Marketing Corporation.